Oh, we're live.
And we're live. Hi.
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 Yo.
Hi, everyone. We're still
Yo,
working
hey.
on an opening.
Yo, hey.
We need
Hey, you.
Yo. We're here. It is Thursday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter.
And we are early.
Why are we early, Jen?
We're early because
Special
we're doing
people?
certain people I'm willing to go early
Get
for.
their panties in a bunch?
Yeah. Well, no, we're willing to do the early bird special for some of our friends.
Seinfeld's too good for the early bird.
We're willing to do the
Sorry.
early bird.
We're never going to completely
our
get
friends.
Seinfeld out of
We
our...
have to. I don't want to even reference him. He is dead to me.
Well, you can reference other parts of the show, just not him.
I suppose. I mean, technically, it's a Larry David writing situation.
It
But
is all
still,
Larry.
I know, but I don't know that he's any different. So that's part of the problem.
You know what I chalk it up to? The ones that truly aren't in favor of what's going on, they're the ones that are quiet. They're the ones that just don't say anything. They're
Maybe.
like, I don't want any part of this.
Exactly. So then they're just cowards. I can't. That's actually worse. I'd rather at least know you're a bigot than you're just a coward willing to just accept somebody else being a bigot.
Well, not everybody could be Jon Stewart.
No.
I wish more people were.
All right. So we are still working on opening, but you are here. Generational Change. If you are new, please subscribe.
Make sure you hit the like button. What are we probably next week?
What? That's between you and the other people that are going to move stuff around in here. I am not moving furniture. I still haven't had anybody unload the crap out of my car from the campaign. I'm still driving around with tables and chairs in my truck.
You know, I could help.
I've asked Jason and Graham like so many times, and I really don't want to do it by myself. But I'm going to have to.
No.
Because every time I go around a turn, I'm hearing tables and chairs sliding around in the back of the truck.
Well, here's hoping that our connection stays strong because we have had a monsoon, if you will, of storm here in South Florida, but nothing compared to the storm that's coming to this country. It's going to,
I wait with bated breath.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. With everything that's going on right now, from the protests, from Hillary Clinton's appearance on MSNBC, to the non-endorsement by the Teamsters, and every liberal in this country saying it was because of racism that they didn't endorse Kamala Harris, proving once again they've learned nothing. And if that's not enough, then you are going to get a real taste of what's coming to this country that has nothing to do with whether Trump or Kamala wins, has to do everything with the very owners of this country taking over all the homes as quickly as possible. And you're all fucked. So who better to talk to about how we're all fucked than our good friend over at the Real Progressives, because he knows his shit. Steve Grumbine, welcome back to Generational Change.
Hey guys, gals. Welcome back, Jen.
Thank you. Yeah,
Now you could speak freely.
I speak freely.
Yes.
I
That never really changed.
It didn't really change, but definitely with regarding that particular demographic group that we were just referencing, I had to sort of like that group of people, those sort of like annoying neolibs that are potentially could support us, but that we really think that they're kind of douchey. That entire demographic of people, which unfortunately is very representative of the Democratic Party. When you're a candidate, you have to tread lightly on that. And now I don't. Now I don't. I don't care what happens to those people. I'm also no longer a Democrat. I'm officially no party affiliation.
Well, that'll make Steve very happy. I unfortunately am still a Democrat, but we'll see how that unfolds as we go forward. You look around at everything that's going on right now, and you've given so much righteous anger to so many key issues. But I've noticed lately that it's not even about shouting anymore. It's about, if you can't get it through your thick skull that there are serious problems that can be rectified, but if you continue to get distracted by shit that has no bearing whatsoever, like people get so caught up right now, maybe not as much as other years, because I'm not getting that vibe in this presidential election, although there still are a lot of people who are trying to sell you on this ideal of, Kamala's vibe, if you will, or that Trump is going to end the world if he gets in. I do think that there is a healthy contingent of people that is growing outside of the two-party system right now, that it's going to be permanent. It's not going to be temporary. This isn't 2016. I'm out, I'm back in again. It's like, no, you fooled me enough times. This is irredeemable at this point. I think it's time for a new path. How do you see it?
Well, I don't believe that there's any electoral path whatsoever. So I don't see Kamala or Trump. I don't see either of them, quote unquote, getting in via winning elections, even if the votes are tallied and everybody feels like they did their public service. At the end of the day, the owners of this country, which you rightly stated, are the ones that are pulling the strings. And it's beyond... You have to be so childlike in your naivety to believe that you are voting away the power of corporations, that you're voting away the genocides that are before us, that you're voting away the largesse of the military-industrial complex, that you're somehow or another voting away all the surveillance and voting away a police state. You have to be... I don't even know if it's childlike. It's almost like criminally inept mentally at this point in time to believe that the path forward to making these changes is electoral. And I've come to the point now where, and I'm thankful, by the way, I want to stress this very clearly. There is a contingent out there that isn't just content pretending that we're going to run with a third party and make everything better. There's an entire contingent of people that are waking up saying there is no electoral path forward. And that's the part of the conversation that I'm in. So when I hear about elections, when I hear about these conversations, I mean, folks, let me tell you, full disclosure, I phone banked. I didn't do much. Don't get me wrong. I did more than I've done for anyone other than Bernie a long, long time ago. But I actually phone banked for Jen. Even though I don't believe in the process, I believe in her. And so I did phone bank for her. And but I want to be crystal clear. Our pathway to solving the problems that face us are to really, truly be ungovernable, to be outside of this process, to develop parallel systems. And it's a hard task. Everything I'm saying, there's nothing I'm saying that is easy. There's nothing I'm saying that's imminent either, because I can't get people, there's not enough of people like me. And yet there's a lot of people that are kind of on that weird fence of I'll vote third party out of principle, knowing that they're not going to win, which is fine. I mean, I'm not telling you not to vote, but I'm telling you that the success, whatever matters, won't be between Donald Trump and Kamala or Kamala or whatever the fuck ever her name is. It won't come in the form of nice speeches.
Steve, you triggered me. Pronounce her name correctly, or you're a racist.
I know. I get this nonsense. It's like,
hey, like her accent. It depends on who she's talking to. Maybe
we'll call it girl boss, right? Girl boss, girl boss Dem.
Actually,
you know,
apparently when she was the attorney general, you had to refer to her as Colonel. That was that you had to call her.
What kind of?
Well, hey, I mean, you know, come on, she's boss lady. Call her Colonel.
I mean, I see all these memes, and I don't want to talk about this for long because it really sickens me. But I see all these memes of Kamala with a Rocky Balboa, red, white, and blue trunks and the gloves on with fat boy, you know, dad bod Donald Trump laying on the mat. And it's like they're really, really into this thing. And it's like a tell. It's like a neon sign over the bathroom when somebody walks out that says, hey, didn't wash their hands. It's
Right.
like that kind of thing. It's like, I know that you're not a very smart person. You immediately told me your IQ is sub 20. And it's very hard because that is vast majority of Americans today. And it's not really their fault. It's their fault that they don't resist, but it's not their fault that they're uneducated or misled. Our country is doing this to us in droves, and it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of willingness to be on the outside, to not be with the herd, to be excommunicated from the lemmings. And that's tough for people that want to feel that kind of camaraderie amongst the sheep. They feel that urge to be part of that thing, and it's hard to break free from it. They don't want to be isolated and outside of it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually had a friend years back that basically stopped being friends with me over the whole Hillary Bernie nonsense. And what really pissed her off is that I referred to a bunch of people as ovine, and that apparently was somewhat offensive. But you know.
Oh my goodness! I have to.
You
put
don't know
that
what
in my
ovine
back pocket.
is. He doesn't know what ovine is. That's why. Maybe that's why she was offended. She didn't understand ovine is sheep. Bovine are cows. Equines are horses. Like, Steve, seriously. Ovine.
Steve, do people know that they're sheep and they're just afraid?
No, that's the thing. They don't know.
No, the thing is that they think they're the ones leading us to the promised land right off the cliff. They're the ones that are hurry, 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 get on the, you know, what are those cattle chutes where they're just all walking through and then the little metal punch through the forehead? I mean, these guys are like, come on, no, it's really good through the cattle chutes. Come on, y'all. And I'm dejected, not politically speaking, but just in general. Like when you see a genocide occurring, and you don't have lockstep, just completely unanimous rejection of that, there's something worthless about your society, something sick and perverted about your society if you're not universally against genocide. And I see more Democrats go, yeah, but we can worry about genocide after we beat Trump.
Right.
And I'm like, please, I hope to God that you're in the water sometime, in the rapids, mind you. And I'm standing on the rock outside the rapids, looking at you in the rapids. And you're like, please save me. And I'm like, I just got to wait until dinner time. After dinner time, I'm more than happy to come save you. But in the meantime, though, sorry. And, you know, it's just ridiculous. Because that's what's happening. Every day, every minute that we allow a genocide to occur, every time we just turn our back and go, Trump's worse, more people die. And yesterday, which I'm sure we're going to talk some about, yesterday should be terrifying to all of us that they can detonate remotely pagers, cell phones, laptops, anything with a lithium battery in it or whatever that has connectivity. I mean, folks, you're talking about an age of self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles, connected and autonomous vehicles. Turnpikes across the country are instituting, stuff for, self-driving and connected vehicles. You got stuff going on in California where they're testing these kinds of vehicles. What would it take for someone to remotely hijack you, take you wherever they want, blow you up, kill you, kill your kids? My God, how many kids take their parents' phones from them and play games on it? And all of a sudden now, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much fucked up in the world right now. And the Democrats who are supposed to be the good guys are the biggest fucking losers and cowards in the universe. Like, nothing comes close to the ideologically free I mean, people are finding out. There was a tweet on X that I just laughed my ass off. I think I retweeted it myself, and it was this vote blue shitlib that took a political test and realized they came out as an apathetic righty. And they're like, oh, wow. And it's like, wow, you finally realized you're a fucking Republican, you piece of Anyway, it's the most revolting cult.
If you look at the responses from the shit libs, they all said, well, it's a bad test. It's a stupid test. Well, here's the thing, but I wasn't going to say anything, but I took the test. And sure enough,
and you turned out shitlib. It said shitlib.
No, I actually landed right, surprisingly where I thought I would land, and that was an outsider.
Are you talking about that thing with the quadrants, the 4 quadrants? No,
okay. It was a different one. That quadrant one is out there. Anyway, the point, if somebody feels like screwing around looking at my timeline, I'm sure I shared. I didn't share that much today, so it won't be hard to find. But the idea that your party is embracing Dick Cheney, right? Your party is embracing every single right-winger that ever committed an atrocity, from Bush. I mean, how many people have they rehabbed in the Republican Party to bring in? You know what I mean? Like,
everybody gets rehabilitated.
Yeah, and so what we have is every election we're told is the most important election ever. As soon as it's over, every Republican that ever bombed anyone, and mind you, it's the Democrats doing the bombing, so it's not really even about Republicans right now. That's why it's so important to realize it's this bullshit that we call politics is a veneer that hides the interests of the capital order over top of our heads that we're not privy to. We're not part of it.
We'd be in the exact same position had it been any, other than potentially had it been Bernie, any of like the other potential, that we'd be exactly where we are right now. I think we
can cover this now because I think it's relevant to, even though it's somewhat related to electoral politics, but I do think it's important to the discussion because we're all about labor here. Colin, if you can pull up anything related to the Teamsters not endorsing Kamala Harris and them all having a conniption fit, including AOC, over the past 24 hours, basically saying, how dare you not endorse her? Now the locals throughout the country are saying, well, we're going to endorse Kamala. And it's like, you don't get it. It's not just that they took a survey and said that 60% of their voting base wants them to endorse Trump. And I'm just thinking,
they don't care about democracy.
Even if supporting Trump is wrong, it's like, did you forget what the Biden-Harris administration actually did when they broke the railroad strike? Like,
people keep saying how he's been so good for labor. I keep hearing how great he's been for labor.
The only thing that Biden has done one thing in his presidency that I actually think has been good, which is the NLRB. That's it. And Lena Khan, who almost assuredly will be out of a job if Kamala gets in, because
she's going to be out of a job either way because Trump's not keeping her either.
Well, no, that's true. But Reid Hoffman, who is one of the biggest billionaire Democratic donors, has made it very clear that he is giving millions of dollars to Kamala, and that the first thing he wants her to do when she is first Madam President, get Lena Khan the fuck out.
No, that was just in his advisor capacity, not in his donor capacity.
Yeah, well, because they never crossed the
Well, you know what? It's interesting, and this was also a thing, not just being endorsed by Dick Cheney, but she's sitting there during a debate bragging about her economic plan being endorsed by Goldman Sachs. And I'm thinking, not a selling point. I don't that to me.
Like, if you're a rank and file labor leader, and this is the thing. Listen, I think we both think Sean Fain is a solid labor leader overall, but he did not allow his workers, the rank and file, to vote on endorsement for president. He arbitrarily decided, no, we're endorsing, Biden, which ultimately became Harris. Sean O'Brien says, well, we're going to leave it up to our guys. And even though the almost 2/3 majority said we want Donald Trump, he's like, well, you know what, we're just not going to endorse. And that wasn't good enough for the Democratic establishment. And they all come out and say, oh, it's all racism. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with whether or not. And again, they point to the American Rescue Plan back in the first 100 days of Biden's administration, talking about the fact that they saved the Teamsters pensions. And it's like, yes, you save the Teamsters pensions, but how many Teamsters are losing their jobs because you don't actually protect the jobs? We used to have 1/3 workers in this country were members of a labor union. Now it's 10%. And who's to say it's not going to keep getting worse? Because the policies that the Democratic Party seems to be enacting, again, if you are...
Well, what happened to the PRO Act?
The PRO Act, never going to pass that. And so if you
Wasn't
are...
that one of Biden's things? Wasn't he big?
It was the biggest piece of legislation that they could have passed in his first 100 days that they didn't pass that would have eliminated right to work laws. Now, that would have been significant. But of course, that's never going to happen because when your party is funded by Wall Street and Silicon Valley, the very entities that want no part of workers' rights, what do you expect is going to happen? You can tell everyone that Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about workers. Guess what? He doesn't. But neither does Kamala Harris and her people. So why would you endorse? That's the question. It's
irrelevant. If the people don't vote for it, then it doesn't matter. That's what I don't like. It's a silly discussion.
But does that not show their hand, in your opinion, in terms of the weakness, the precariousness of their standing at this point? That the Teamsters are just painting them as these terrible people. And it's like, you don't get it with labor, do you? You don't get that there's so many more underlying factors as to why you didn't get the endorsement. Your thoughts on that?
I know what they're fighting for. They apparently, Sarah Nelson, Sean Fain, and others are trying to align their contracts for a general strike in a few years, right? So this is the big thing that they're trying to do. And I have said from day one, regardless of whether or not this is electoral or not, I've said from day one that you can't just have a general strike. A lot of people fist in the air, ready to go, rush out, and they don't realize that a general strike means everybody's not working, and all of a sudden you've got to have protections built in. You've got to have the ability to feed yourself. You have the ability to get out of jail. You have to have the ability for legal support, you name it. I mean, there's a lot going on there. It's not just, oh, well, let's go general strike. Yeehaw, right? So in that sense, I applaud them that they're aligning their contract dates. I applaud them that they're thinking long-term. It doesn't matter whether we need it now if you don't have the numbers. And you can see across unions, they don't have the numbers. Not only don't they have the numbers, but this is the hard part, right? You don't suddenly develop a left consciousness, a working class consciousness, if you've only known the capital mindset. And that's all that has been here. And we're atomized in this neoliberal world where it's all about me, myself, and I. This libertarian, pathetic mindset kicks in. And so it's the anti-collectivism. And as a result of anti-collectivism, it's an anti-solidarity. So unions have a lot of work to overcome in society and so forth. And as long as they're focused on pee breaks, and as long as they're not focused on class struggle unionism, they're going to be highly ineffective, unfortunately. And that sucks. It's tough, but it's true.
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on general strike, which I definitely like the idea of general strike, is that everybody has a different lane in that. So yeah, labor is not the component it would be in a place where we had much more union participation. But they have their own element of it. But I think the building up of community infrastructure and coalition so that you can have those supports, that's the key thing. I've been saying that for a while. And that was the difference with like the miners in Alabama versus the Amazon workers in Alabama in terms of strength. Like the miners had so much community infrastructure. They had a fund. They were able to sustain themselves. And people don't realize that. However, from Sean Fain's perspective, I understand that they need to at least get them all on the same rotation. And that's just their end of it, but what else? I mean, that's all they can do is work their end of it, just like we can work our end of it.
There's a saying, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm sure there's somebody out there far more union oriented than I. I mean, I care very much about the labor movement, but I'm not in a union. I don't work in a place that has unions, and we're not in a position as contractors to really organize in the way that we would like. We'd be gone instantly. But one of the things that they say is for union leaders to never get ahead of the rank and file. And I've read this in many different, history books and union, theory, all kinds of different places, articles, you name it. And what's happening is that the union leadership is got some forward-thinking people. They're terrified of losing the NLRB. They still believe in electoralism, sadly. But as a result of that, they're like, well, we know if we allow Trump in their mind, that will get rid of the NLRB. That is one of the few things that we have in our disposal, which I think's already pretty much been gutted anyway by, the Supreme Court. But regardless, they're looking at that and they're saying, hey, I'd rather not endorse anyone as a union and give ourselves, this is the thinking anyway, give us a chance to get to that general strike. And, without it becoming so hostile that we can't. I'm of the mindset that unfortunately Democrats, and, whether this is, the way that they want it up top or not, I don't know. But rank and file people, when the Democrats are in office, they go back to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
They have 0% fight.
Yes.
So as a result of their worthlessness, their pathetic beliefs, their pathetic lives, that they just go back to sleep when a Democrat's in office, it makes everything else just not matter, right? So, and if you aren't radicalized to fight back of what you're seeing now, chances are it's going to require a horrible event in your life or something else to get you to finally see the world for what it is. And a lot of these people, they're doing pretty well. And they're not willing to yield a moment of their comfort in defense of someone that, that whole Bernie saying, screw Bernie, he sold us out. But that whole, what would you do? Would you help or do something for someone you don't know or some bullshit like that, right? I mean, like, here you go. I mean, you're witnessing firsthand our country using the power of its production engine to provide. Think about this. If you're in a war and you're at the back end of the supply chain, just because you're not pulling the trigger doesn't mean that when you roll those Jeeps out there with your bombs and stuff to the front lines, that you're not part of a fucking war, right? Well, the U.S. is selling and providing all the weapons to Israel to do the shit that they're doing. So if you don't think we're at war, if you don't think we are fundamentally handing the gun to the killer that's slaughtering children in Palestine, then there's a real serious problem here, a real serious problem. And again, so the only time these fools get upset and aroused and out in the streets or willing to do anything is when Donnie Tiny Hands freaking tweets something, or if his comb over blows weird off the airplane, they'll tweet about it for at least a good solid month. That's at least a month's worth of content for them. Okay, so we need Trump. We need Trump to get them awake, sadly. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I mean, I don't believe in any of this shit, but I don't believe in them. Man, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of pathetic...
Thing that bothers me about this, what bothers me the most about it, is that they didn't endorse Trump. Not because I like Trump. I don't like Trump. But if you're telling me the majority of their members support that, then that is what they should be doing. And so that's the only thing to me that is remotely controversial about this.
And that's also why I'm not buying this bullshit that all these locals are all of a sudden endorsing Kamala. It's like,
no.
Were you actually taking votes of your rank and file? Literally on the fly. Remember, union halls generally only meet once a month on very specific days.
And not all of them go, by the way, they handle it the same way. At the top of every group is somebody making decisions for everyone.
Hey, get in here right now. We're taking a vote as a union on whether or not to endorse in this presidential race, and who are we going to endorse? And all these locals coming out saying, well, we are endorsing Kamala Harris. It's like, no, you mean the bosses are endorsing her, because for them, this is a career. This isn't about the livelihoods of what's in the best interest of working people.
No, they don't care.
And so,
well, let me ask this though, because do you think that had the Teamsters members predominantly supported Kamala, that they would have just endorsed her?
Listen, I look at it this way, and this is what's,
because I'd like to think they wouldn't want to piss off their Trump people too.
Sure, and I think that's the thing. It's like, with my guy that I know, he's like, yeah, a lot of guys are Trump supporters. A lot of them are Trump and Bernie supporters. That's what they're populist. They're working class. They do not like the bougie bullshit of politics, and the Democrats literally have it spewing out of their ears. Like, they can't help it. And that type of the people that thumb their nose at people, it always, stuffy liberals to me have always been the most, with all due respect, and I mean this with all due respect, the most pathetic people in the political classes, because they are the most incompetent out of anybody. They could never change a tire. They couldn't change oil.
But the good news is they're all the ones that are going to die first in the apocalypse.
Well,
they're all the ones that are going to be, all the blue people on the coast, they're all going to be
They always
dead.
want to point fingers at others and say, oh, how, and if it's like, what, because you're well read that makes you somebody special?
Wait till there's no power.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem. And and I would say, Steve, the most interesting part about this is that this is the first time in 3 decades that the union has not endorsed a presidential candidate. Would you care to guess the reason why they didn't endorse the Democratic candidate back in 1996? Well, I could tell you why, because I happen to pass this really terrible policy called NAFTA and normal trade relations with China. So I was like, yeah, fuck the labor. And that's exactly what happened.
But it's pitiful.
Bubba.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there something really fascinating here?
Just the fact that they did an internal poll and that 60% of their membership that was polled said that they support Donald Trump and 34% supports Harris. Now, when it was Biden, Biden was ahead, but not by much. It was by like a few points. It was very close. But in this case, it's a complete sweep. Now, is it entirely possible that the reason why that this is happening is that there's a lot of people within the labor movement, even in, a very rough and tough union like the Teamsters, that do not like the fact that Kamala was basically given the crown that she didn't earn, and that they do not want to have this appointed person as their president, that they would have preferred a floor fight. Remember, they had to do their glitz and glamour show in Chicago. That was much more important than doing actual democratic process on the convention floor. Let's have 5 candidates here. Let's figure out who wants to be president. And let's be honest, we all know who they are. You got Newsom, you got Whitmer, you got Pritzker, you got Shapiro, and you got Bashir. And there's no question that they all want that brass ring. But no, let's just give it to and Buttigieg. Sorry, totally forgot about Pete Buttigieg. He don't want to wait.
He's the same as Kamala, though. They're the same.
And so rather than do a floor fight and actually show that the democratic process is alive and well, they wanted their grand spectacle of pretending like the Democratic Party is totally united and on board with everything that's going on. Well, you know what? I think the Teamsters doing this, actually, this is like a kick in the side of the head. Like, they are really shocked that this happened. I really believe that. Now, of course, you would agree that they're just completely aloof to reality, but I do think that O'Brien sticking to his guns and just not giving the Democratic establishment what they wanted, like, that really shook them. Like, they're really shocked that somebody would do that, because for me, what I'm hoping is that it inspires others to do the same thing and say, I'm not doing this shit no more. Like, that's it. I'm thinking that more than anything else is what they're the most concerned about.
I don't think it really matters at all. I'm struggle busting with finding the care button here. I mean, I really think that this is just more about, like, you're so fucking stupid that you believe we have a democracy. We're just going to do this thing, and we don't really care where the chips fall, because what do you want, Trump? And the idea of what do you want, Trump, is the standard calling card of a vote blue sycophant. It is literally the only words that they understand how to speak. It's pathetic. And so when you think about that,
I have a proposition. I think that when those people say, well, do you want Trump? I'm just going to go, yeah. I'm just going to say, yes, I do. Because at the end of the day, and I would not vote for this person, I'm voting for Dr. West. But at the end of the day, do I think that 4 years of Trump is potentially worse than 8 to 12 years of whatever neoliberal Clintonian shit's going to come out of Kamala? No, actually, and with everyone going back to sleep, while with Trump, everybody is on him like white on rice. And when Trump's in office, nobody gives him a set. I mean, and he's still a wackadoo and is going to do what he's going to do. But he doesn't get away with it publicly. He gets away with everything judiciously. Everything having to do with that, he gets away with. But he can't, like you said, if his hair blows out of line, people are on him for it. Whereas if Kamala was there, No one will pay attention. They'll have them all be quiet. She'll hold less conferences, less briefings than anybody ever. You'll never see her. And everybody will go back to brunch. And she'll appoint people from Goldman Sachs to be in her cabinet. Trump is already aligning himself with people like RFK and Tulsi. And while I don't agree with them on things, those are both people that have spoken truth to power.
Let me tell you
those
something.
are both people that that I have heard speak for something. So,
and on top of everything else, can you imagine having a presidential candidate that just completely avoids communication with people if it's not in a controlled environment? I mean, that is so 1984. This really is Big Brother come to life. And you know what? We are going to cover this story, but we have to do this with Hillary real quick. This level of psychosis and psychopathy, as far as I'm concerned, it really speaks to the level of control and the power that the Clintons still have over the party. And so the Queen herself, or as she thinks of herself to be, was on MSNBC the other night, as I'm sure some of you have seen the clips of. But the comments that she made regarding controlling the people is so dangerous beyond words.
I love that she's saying it publicly, though.
But there's people that really wish that she became president over Trump. Like, they think that she is infinitely better. Okay, here we go.
I am struck by the fact that as his campaign
careens
into very, very offensive territory, the association with Holocaust deniers and the outrages at Arlington National Cemetery, of all places, the insults to recipients of the Medal of Honor, the recent incredibly racist and dangerous lies about specific groups of immigrants, Haitians in this case, and Venezuelans in the case of Colorado. I am struck by the fact that as much as we thought we might have been inoculated against sort of outrage tactics like that, where everything else gets thrown by the wayside and everybody starts responding to his outrage du jour, it's a way of sort of yanking everybody's chain. I sort of feel like we haven't learned, and he's still being taught, especially by the media, that the more offensive he is, the more he can dominate the media space entirely. And
I just have to say, I'm not a lawyer. She is, but if this ain't leading the witness, and I've never seen it before in my life, it's tell us
me exactly what we want to hear. You didn't warn me that I was having to stomach Rachel Maddow with Hillary Clinton.
When you think about the biggest sellouts in all of media, I don't think there is anybody.
Let me tell you something. You know what? If Ed Schultz was, I wonder, what
would Ed Schultz
think of what happened to Rachel Maddow? I don't know.
Oh Lord.
I feel like you've been a good diagnoser of that, not only from when you were up against him, but from when others have done so. Do you have an antidote for that, or a way that people can talk themselves out of taking that bait?
I think that's really a critical question, and I think there's a couple of things going on here. You mentioned the press, and sadly, the press is still not able to cover Trump the way that they should. They careen from one outrage to the next. What was outrageous 3 days ago is no longer on the front pages, even though it threatens the physical safety of so many people, particularly, as you point out, immigrants that he and Vance have decided to demonize. And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it. They were merciless about what they saw as President Biden's, problems in the debate, and calling for him to withdraw. I believe Donald Trump has disqualified himself over and over and over again to be a presidential candidate, let alone a president. The second thing, though, is
and yet he's been one, and you have not. And that must piss her off to no end.
She seems to be getting infinitely more curmudgeonly as every day goes by.
And authoritarian.
Yes. Well, we're going to get to that in a minute, but
dear Christ.
There really is something to be said. Like, why doesn't anybody tell her, maybe you should speak to somebody?
Because she owns the people that own the station. In fact, that question that you found leading, the reason it was leading is because it was handed to Rachel Maddow from Hillary's people as to what to basically ask her. So everything here is being fed via script, everything. So that's why it was leading. It was written by Hillary's people.
Like, I see her as a very, very, very dangerous person.
Oh.
Like, people joke about whether or not bodies have been buried, literally and figuratively. If you told me that bodies were buried, I would believe it.
Are you talking about her?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. What are you?
She has this, like,
oh my God.
She really does have this Empress Palpatine thing going on.
See, I'm not a candidate anymore. I could say Seth Rich. I can say it.
Vince Foster.
Thank you.
Remember, Vince was able to successfully shoot himself twice in the back of the head. I mean, that's pretty
amazing.
Impressive when you think about it. That is one thing.
How much more do we have to endure? You're
Not
killing
a lot,
us.
but this is this is the most important part.
Okay, because
part of what Trump is counting on is for people to get desensitized. I mean, oh my gosh, did you hear what he said yesterday? Did you hear who he attacked? Did you hear the viciousness? And it just like with a shrug, okay, fine, we're moving on. Well, Americans need to understand that they have to take Trump both seriously and literally. He has said what he wants to do. He and his allies with Project 2025, his desire to be a dictator, at least on day one, all of that is in the public record. And I believe that more Americans have to be, willing to endure what frankly is discomforting and to some extent kind of painful. To take him at his word and to be outraged by what he represents. And then finally, the hopeful side of this is that I do think more and more Americans are, rejecting the kind of chaos that he represents. We can't go back. That's what the Harris campaign says all the time. We're not going back. We're not going back to, what he failed to do to protect American lives during COVID. We're not going back to the, romance with dictators that puts, innocent lives at risk and America's security in danger. We can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world.
Well, there you go.
I couldn't have said it better. I agree, but we can't give her one more chance to do harm to this world. And we know that Kamala is her puppet. So to me, she is case in point. I cannot make her go away.
Steve, how many memoirs has she written since she lost the presidency?
Too many.
Oh my God.
I honest to God, this is no joke. I take great pain to not hear her speak. And I'm sitting here trapped on a camera with a microphone watching Contavious Snatchhead sitting there mouthing off. I mean, it's like horrid.
She's the worst, right?
Horrible.
Like, she's
the worst.
The worst. I know.
Worst.
And to me, Kamala is her puppet. So to me,
spitting images.
Exactly. And so to me, like that is just as scary to me now as it was in 2016. And I do think they're going to get the same result. I actually hope they get the same result because otherwise we're all really screwed.
The thing that's so ironic about all of this is that they spent the better part of the last, 8 years now, blaming Jill Stein for the reason why Donald Trump became president in the first place. So I got to tell you, this time, there really is a shot where Jill Stein is going to cause Donald Trump to become president.
I still don't think that. And the reason I don't think that is because those people wouldn't have voted. So again, It's for the same reasons she didn't change it last time. However, I do think the Democrats are going to lose Michigan. And I do think Jill Stein will do well there as a benefit. But Kamala's not losing Michigan because of Jill Stein. Jill Stein is benefiting from votes that Kamala lost.
Now, the biggest issue in terms of what Hillary said, and Colin, I know I sent you the clip. That wasn't the one that I sent you. But my point is this. She talked about the fact that it's still the Russians, that she was, they were paying off conservative media people and she wants to see them prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. She really is Big Brother. Like, this is 1984.
These are the people that are pushing things like cop cities. Like, this is all part of their plan. This is not, yeah.
I don't know how people look, and like you said, electoral politics is overrated, but I don't know how you can listen to what the Democratic Party has become, led by this woman, because she's still in charge. Let's be honest.
Well, she had to. They had to buy. She had to pay them off after Debbie bankrupted them, and then they are owned by the Clinton Foundation.
But there's so much that we don't know, that we're not behind the scenes, that we don't see. But there's no question that all of these elements are the entire Kamala brigade, the entire campaign. It reeks of Clintonism in the worst ways possible. But the inherent danger of allowing people like this to have power. But I also think that speaks to one of the greater issues here, which is a significant portion of the people who are checking out of electoral politics are the working class. It's the upper class, upper middle class. Those are the people that are literally living on Twitter all day long talking about Kamala and how great it's going to be.
Yes, because working people are just struggling to live.
That's true. But I almost wonder, do they take pleasure in seeing working people suffer? Like, is that something that they get off on, Steve?
I think they need us to suffer for their entire capitalist ethos to have any ability to stand. I mean, literally, I mean, when I heard, let me tell you, let me translate, since you all were talking through part of it, let me translate what I saw with Maddow and Clinton. I saw two people that are on the same side, that are part of the same gang, that are same, not even party, the same physical arrangement. They're part of the system, working together to convey a message for the larger system that they represent. And they trot these people out every so often. Hillary does her, hey, okay, I'm back to being unpopular, let's pull me back. When's the last time you saw Cory Booker? It's been a few minutes since Cory Booker came out to trash some bill that Bernie was putting forward, or it's been a while since you've seen some of these other people. I mean, even Ro Khanna hasn't even made his regular, rogue visits to the media lately. I mean, I haven't seen any of the usual suspects coming out of the woodwork. Where's Amy Klobuchar? Is she no longer part of the, let me get in front of the camera crew? I mean, how did it suddenly become Pete Buttigieg as poster boy to talk, and Blinken and this? I mean, they've got a whole apparatus of people that come as soon as they get focus tested and they realize, hey, these guys aren't popular anymore. They roll out another 5 and they put them in the background to continue doing what I don't believe any of this. I mean, you need to understand how much I don't believe it. Like, it's not like I'm on the fence. Oh, I wonder if, I am way over there, way gone, way beyond the point of seeing this and going, hey, folks, there's a show on. I need to hear Hillary speak tonight. There's a show. There's a convention. I've got to hear this debate. No. This is important. I used to be like that. I used to be like, let's sit down. Let's analyze this shit. Now I'm like, I mean, I did have to analyze it when I went on with Jordan and talk about this stuff. But my God, you talk about putting needles in my eye, because I know it's fucking theater.
It is.
It's all about manufacturing consent. All of it. And that's the thing. It's like, and if you keep holding out hope that they're doling out their little bananas worth of fucking hope that Kamala, it's got to be better than Trump. No, you just don't understand.
She's doing a tax credit in small business loans.
Yes. And so I'm at this point now where when I hear this stuff, it's not, I feel bad because I come on shows like this and, I was going to go on with John Kiriakou tomorrow, but I can't. I mean, just different times where, and they want to talk about these things. And I think they really want to have a real good discussion about it. And I'm like, guys, it's fucking fake.
This is what I
not
real. Him. He keeps wanting to discuss
it's
these
still
things.
Real to me.
And he knows it's not, but every time I was talking about any of this,
no, it
stuff,
reminds
I'm like, who
me.
cares? It doesn't matter what
Steve,
these people
if
say.
you remember from Tosh.0 years ago, it reminds me of that wrestling fan who started crying when he's like, it's still real to me.
Yeah, well, it's like one of the last holdouts.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
No, I think it's all ridiculous. And one of the things that I also have come to find completely a waste of time are any of these briefings, whether it's the Munster guy or Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is.
Corinne
Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is.
Jean-Pierre.
Whatever.
Cringe. What? Cringe?
That's good. That's
All
good.
of these people that are doing that, first of all, they just completely lie. They don't answer questions. I actually feel like it's a complete waste of every journalist's time in that room to even be there. I don't understand why they show it. I don't understand why they go. I don't understand why someone like Ryan Grimm even would sit there and ask a question. First of all, even if they answer you, they're going to lie. What difference does it make what you say?
See, there is the rub right there. Stop right there on Ryan Grimm.
Yeah.
Ryan Grimm, I interviewed him one time, a long time ago. And look, the guy does good work like 80% of the time. It's the other 20% where he lends credibility to this fraud.
They all do, because otherwise you don't get invited into the room.
Well, that's my point. Like, so it's like, even if he's the best guy, good at Parcheesi, decent at the Texas two-step, maybe a good bowler even, maybe a good dad someday. I don't know. But the bottom line is that what he's selling you half the time is bullshit because of the fact that he needs access to be able to do what he does.
And everyone in that room. That's the point.
Absolutely. Yes. And so every time I hear these things, I just go, God damn, we need to really, really build completely outside of this.
Yes.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to keep giving airtime to electoral politics when I feel fundamental. But what's happening, and this is the problem, it's like little teardrops on the brain of people to keep it alive. It like keeps the bullshit alive. Instead of saying, guys, if you think I'm wrong, tell me how your vote went to enable a genocide. Just hook a brother up. Tell me when you voted for genocide. Tell me when you voted for Kamala Harris to be your nominee. Oh, wait, that's right. They're a private corporation that has no responsibility whatsoever. Your great state of Florida federal court threw this shit out back when Jared, oh my God, what the hell is his name? Jared and his wife, they did the DNC lawsuit.
In Miami. You're talking about in Miami. The attorneys, the attorneys.
Yes. And so bottom line, we know this is a fake fucking game. It's bullshit in a chef's salad. And that's why when Bernie talks, it's so funny to look at what AOC did back when she said, and there's a great quote, folks. This is the only, back when I had an ounce of hope, the thing she said that sparked me up was, I would rather be a one-term
congressperson
and be dead serious for one term. I can achieve more in one term than somebody over 10 years that's just trying to make a career of it. Well, lo and behold, girlfriend has become the epitome of careerist, of sellout, of worthlessness. And watching Bernie Sanders, who, if you remember, let's see those transcripts. And then all of a sudden he got called to the principal's office and Obama talked to him. After that, Bernie hasn't been the same since then. Everything about Bernie Sanders, and I'm not telling you he was ever anything other than that. Maybe he was legitimate. And maybe the word from above was like, nope, we don't do legitimate shit anymore. We only do this fake shit. You're off script. Get online or we're going to find a way to move you out. I don't know. I have no idea. And that's the thing. I don't need to understand everything. I don't need to dig down the rabbit hole and know about the bloodlines and this. I don't need to know it. I don't fucking need to. All I need to know is that it's bullshit. It's theater. And that the path forward is we, the people, uniting outside of it, no longer watching these shows, no longer giving airtime to the shit. Start giving airtime to things that matter, like really, truly building institutions outside of building power together. Educate. Do you realize? Let me tell you the worst thing about it. See, I made the mistake of understanding theory. I made the mistake of reading history. I made the mistake of reading not the CIA version of history. I made the mistake of going through all these different paths, and now I can't hear the things they're saying anymore in the same way. I fucked myself up. I could have been a good mensch and just driven along through stupid lane, and I'd have been fine. But instead I learned, and as a part of learning, you realize, oh shit, I can't listen to this crap anymore. But the problem is most people don't crack the spine of a book because they're tired, they're exhausted, they're running rampant, their lives are freaking in Shatterville. They've got more responsibility than ever. They've got less money coming in to meet those needs, and they're living in fear. And so they just do what they do because they become somewhat domesticated cattle. They have become cattle for this system. And when you realize you don't want to be that, it's incredibly hard to wake up in the morning. It's incredibly hard to go through the day. Because, like, how do I exist in a world that's full of shit? How do I exist in a world that is just complete? But I cannot go along with the narrative any longer. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at.
But what I will say is that I think this is a different time now. I do think that there are a lot more people that are joining your side of thinking.
I hope so, because I see it like this. I said this to him. There's only three kinds of people. There are people that are part of empire that are purposefully trying to do what they're doing. There are people that are revolutionaries that are fighting against it. And then it's all the tools in the middle. And the goal is to get more of those tools to convert over to revolutionaries before the end of existence. It's like a whack-a-mole game.
Well, so let's talk about that for a minute, right? See, I'm sitting there talking to a good friend that runs a media company who I've done business with, who I like a lot, actually. I'm not going to mention his name because I think he's a good guy. I think he's just misled. But every time I talk to him about what I'm saying, he goes, so what are we going to do, a Bolshevik revolution? Are we going to do some violent thing? Are we going to break Stalin? It's always reverting to this, like, tropism, this red bait bullshit, right? It's like, dude, crack the spine of a book. Stop reading CIA propaganda. First of all, like we can talk about Russia if you really want to. We could go down the history lane if you really need to. But why not start thinking a little differently today? Why not start asking yourself, if I don't unplug from this, if I don't make a different decision, what happens to my children? What happens to the planet? Because think about it, if we have an existential climate crisis, just pretend like we do, right? Pretend like we got an existential climate crisis that only a Green New Deal will save us from, right? And now you don't hear anything about it anymore at all. I don't hear the MMT scholars talking about a Green New Deal anymore at all. I don't see them talking about Medicare for all really at all. Because why? Because they're in bed with Kamala Harris. They're in bed with the Democratic Party. But to their credit, they think that there's a pathway for them to influence policy by being in the party like this. I'm like, you know what? I don't buy it. Sorry, gang. This is where we go our separate ways. I thank God for teaching me MMT, but guess what? MMT, the thing that matters about MMT, you've got to have agency in your political system for it to impact policy. We don't have agency. No. Anybody that tells you we do is a fucking liar. Okay? They're a fucking liar. Not just a liar, but a fucking liar. Okay? And so when you start recognizing that every time I tell you about, hey, maybe we can pull Kamala to the left, maybe we can, we can get her to buy in. No, really, seriously, we just got to defeat Donnie Tiny Hands. Every time I hear that, I say, my God, we don't have a climate crisis that's going to be solved by these idiots. We don't have healthcare ever coming to us because all they can do is focus on Trump derangement. We can't do anything. Literally. So we're stuck in the mud until we disconnect.
It's the Band-Aid.
Disconnect.
That's
it.
What I'm like. And I feel like Trump is that's how I would go. Like when it's a Band-Aid, I go the Trump route, right? Like that's how I look at it. But
I don't even think of that because to me, it's the ideological element that we need to understand. What are we fighting for? Right? Because just being anti-establishment isn't really enough.
No.
When you understand collectively, we need each other. Collectively, we are better together when we work together. But what they've done is they've atomized the working class. You've got working class part A over here with Trump. You got working class part B over here with the Democrats. Yep. And they are separated. But in reality, the working class is being fucked by both of them. And instead of coming together, not even doing the whole political thing, but building outside and recognizing, how can I make your family better? How can I make your children prosper? And there's these fucking really, really, like, honest to God, I am very, very much pro-trans rights. But let's be fair. Trans people are not in the billions of people.
No.
So these people are focused on, oh my God, they're eating cats and dogs. Oh my God, I don't want men in the women's bathroom. Oh,
It's
my
all about
predatory.
political bonds.
It's
just
all these,
Political bonds.
it's
Political
all
bonds.
ickies. It's
That's
all
it.
pathetic. And what they've done, though, by doing it that way, is they've literally created a wedge so deep that the idea of the working class ever revolting against the capital order, it's foolhardy, because there's always a caretaker on both sides. There's always bootlickers that run interference between the revolutionary left, the revolutionary working class, and the people that are stuck fucking around in the establishment, telling everybody, "Oh, what do you want? Oh, what do you?
Those are the tools.
What are you woke?" Exactly.
Those are the tools.
We've got to recognize the fact that at this point in time, this system cannot be reformed.
No.
And we'll build a better society. But the truth is, we are up against people that can detonate fucking cell phones in your ear. We're up against people that can take a drone and bomb you. We're up against people that monitor our this stuff that we're doing right now, monitored for sure. We're up against everything that's surveillance that is on top of us like crazy. So we've got to really be fair and real. I'm not going to run face first into a howitzer. I'm not going to run face first into a freaking buzzsaw of a tank. I'm just not going to run face first into a nuclear bomb. We've got to be smart, and that's the problem. Everybody wants to jump. They don't want to organize. They don't want to build. They don't want to think about things differently. They just want to do the thing they've always done, and that's just vote. They just want to vote and be done with it. And the problem is, it isn't going to work.
No,
What's
and
that?
we've been intentionally sold that. We've
Absolutely.
been sold that mindset, and the people don't know to even look outside of it. And it's very scary. And one thing I just want to say about you were saying, like, there is this darkness that has been hovering over everything, very much so since October 7th. And for me, it's also very personal, because it isn't just, oh, I live amongst genocidal people politically. I apparently live amongst them actually. Like in people that I know. And so it's been a very, very like dark thing. But one thing before you go that I want to just tell you that's been pissing me off, I am so tired of them all talking about their tax dollars. And the problem is these are the good people, because they're right. We don't want to be paying and spending our resources to go be bought. Like, the concept is 1,000% correct. And I cannot tell you the amount of people that I have to correct and saying, look, but it's really important that we don't use that language, because it's really creates this austerity narrative. And I go into this whole thing, but
can I do that once before I go? Can I give that real quick before I go? Because I do need to go, but I do want to say this. The reason why it matters that you not say, my tax dollars are paying for bombs to Israel. My tax dollars are paying for her abortion. My tax dollars are paying for her, so-and-so's trans operation. My tax dollars are paying, first of all, because number one, it's not true. Okay. Right. Let's start there. It's not true. But number two, once you understand that the federal government is spending money into existence and that your taxes are only there to make you need the currency. So in other words, you can't pay your taxes in anything but the currency. So you got to do something to get the currency to pay the tax. And that's how they snare you. It's the tax. It's not that they spend your tax dollar. It's that they literally delete it and throw it away like a coupon for Sbarro's. Hey, I got a 50% off coupon at Sbarro's. I'm going to take it to Wendy's and spend it at Wendy's. And Wendy goes, I don't have faith in Sbarro coupons. So then, you're going back to Sbarro's. You get a slice of cheese and a small orange soda or whatever cheap people do. And so at the end of the day, so, but the point is that when you realize that they could literally right here, right now, literally make every one of us whole. They could ensure every one of us has a good job. They can make sure every one of us has a house. They can make sure every one of us has good, nutritious food. They can make sure every last one of us has transportation to wherever we need to go, that families are together, that families are strong for real. They could do anything they want to rebuild communities, but they don't do it. And they make you think that it's going to be your donations to them and your involvement in them and all this other shit. Folks, the reason why taxpayer dollars is bullshit is because it is bullshit. They are literally spending all that money to Israel, fresh, brand spanking new money to Israel. And they're taking your tax dollars and deleting them because that's what does, think about it. Oh my God. When you go to the movies and you buy a ticket for the movie theater, the movie theater's like taking your ticket, but they're only taking it to rip it up because it's already done its job. They're not taking it because they're going to run out of movie tickets. Oh my God, we need more movie tickets. They just print more in the movie ticket business, or they just keystroke them in electronically and you scan it. It's the same fucking thing as the US dollar. And people, oh no, Steve, you're wrong. My hard-earned tax stuff. Shut the fuck up. That's not true. And once you realize...
to people. Now I'm sitting there and doing that to people. Stop saying it's for tax dollars.
Yes. So, but once you understand that, though, my hope used to be, hey, we can fund a Green New Deal. We can do this stuff. Now my goal is to radicalize people when they understand that austerity is a weapon, a death shot. It's a kill shot on the working class. And they do this intentionally because the more desperate we are, the more they ratchet up interest rates, the more they reduce spending, the more they cut pay, the more they keep wages low, the more they raise interest rates on homes and make them unaffordable. The more we're desperate and the more we'll do whatever the fuck they want us to do. And the more distracted we'll be so they can continue to do their pie in the sky shit up above. And we're distracted chasing fucking phantoms. That's why stop fucking saying your tax dollars because it's not true. That's it.
I appreciate that. Right. Thank you. I have been doing it on your behest regularly.
I love you for it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it immensely.
Appreciate you, brother.
Right, folks. Listen to Macro and Cheese every Saturday morning, gang, please.
Macro and Cheese.
Wait, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm 13 minutes late for our own book club right now. We have a book club and we're doing Michael Parenti's Black Shirts and Reds. And please come over. Tuesday nights, we do a webinar for the Macro and Cheese episode on Saturday. We do a webinar on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Please come. We're building community. We talk amongst each other. We get to know each other. We learn. Macro and chill. You got it. All right, folks. Take it easy. Thank you. All right.
Appreciate you, brother.
We are a disaster in this country.
Dances with Wolves is your favorite anti-Zionist movie. That's interesting how you see it that way. I will say Dances with Wolves is one of the best movies I have seen, and it is Kevin Costner's.
I'm so glad that Kevin Costner hasn't done anything so horrendous yet, because I cannot afford to lose liking more movies from people that I can no longer stomach to watch.
Costner. Listen, Costner, I think, is just like Susan Sarandon. In fact, they were at an event recently.
Well,
Costner just has zero fucks to give. Like he really.
Well, they're friends from the Bull Durham days, but.
Hey, I like to clip my coupons. I think that is important. Even though Steve unfortunately had to go.
Were you going to show this thing that I sent you?
Yes.
I think it's, and the other thing I wanted, did I also send you the thing? Because we had somebody on there from Edinburgh. I saw somebody on there from Edinburgh. So apparently Scotland does those baby boxes, just like they do in Scandinavian countries. Yeah. Right. So apparently now Scotland is doing these things that they do in, I know for sure they do it in Finland. I also think other Scandinavian countries, when a baby is born, the family gets this big box and it is full of everything that a baby would need in the first year, like everything. It's ridiculous. It's full. And the box has a little mattress in the bottom of it and it doubles as like,
are you not entertained?
Yeah, he says I kind of like that. So the box is a bassinet. And this one woman who's in Scotland who has a YouTube show, people were questioning why her baby is always in this box. First of all, her baby is like this big and the box is plenty big, but they give them that to use it as a bassinet. That's the whole point of it. But we don't get anything. You know what we get when you have a baby in this country?
$10,000 bill.
You get a huge bill, and then they get the only gifts you get are brand promotions for things like Enfamil and Huggies and different things. All you get are things to encourage you to buy brand products. You don't get anything. What they send you in these countries in those boxes, none of it is brand stuff. None of it. It's all just stuff that a baby needs. It's not promoting anything, which I also thought that was the other thing. There was no promotion about it.
If you want to know how we're losing to China, I'm going to show you now why they talk about banning TikTok. because this is how kids are raised in the East.
Yeah, wait, but let's give this a little bit of an introduction, because I saw this, and something that bothers me is our lack of give a shit. When I say, like, in our public education for arts, music, to me, when you get rid of arts and music, you're screwed. As a society, as a civilization, you're just screwed. And it is without a doubt that kids that do those things do better, and how it fosters. And we not only have cut budgets on it, but even when we had it, it was so like teaching drones. You would get like, here's what we're making today. You need to have put this many things here and this many things here. Like, we teach our kids to literally be cogs. Like, this is ridiculous. And so this came up, and this is an art class in China. This is why we're losing.
So when people complain about the fact that Asians have the highest per capita of annual income, you can see a culture that actually emphasizes learning skills and being productive, and not just being glued to this all day long.
This is unbelievable to me. And this, no, seriously, when I saw this, it was very clear. This is why we lose, because our kids don't get this. Our kids don't get anything like this.
What's even more amazing is when you think about, why do they want to ban TikTok? Because they don't want you to see that other parts of the world are infinitely more efficient than we are. Now, China happens to be probably an exception in many ways, because Asian cultures do tend to emphasize being of great knowledge and learning skills and constantly.
No, it's not just China. Do you know, like, in their schools, and
I'm just seeing as an example.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
there are schools in Scandinavia where kids don't even go into a classroom. There's places where until third grade, kids are not supposed to learn at a desk. Little people. Mm-hmm. Little people are supposed to learn through play and exploring and adventuring. I saw something, I don't even know what country it was. It was somewhere in Scandinavia. And the kids were outside in raincoats playing in the mud in the rain. That's what little people need to be doing. Little people do not need to be sitting at a desk for 6 hours straight. Oh, well, there's that. But so when I see things like this, it's like, there's no wonder why our kids are so stunted here. And taking away art is huge. And
then, of course, Norway's educational system. So listen,
absolutely,
a lot of systems do, but not ours.
They first of all, what they've done also, and I know in Finland, one of the things is they no longer teach subjects. They teach through doing, they teach through existence, which is how we're supposed to learn. Our entire educational system in this country, how we teach kids at desks, raising hands, all of that stuff is to create manufacturing workers. All of that is to create cogs in an industrial machine. We do not teach kids to be independent thinkers. We do not teach kids to have like any sort of like thinking outside the box at all. Everybody has to fit in the box. And that's a problem. And clearly in China, they're doing an infinitely better job in their primary schools. I know ours are horrible here. Our kids, and when my kid was in elementary school, and my kid, 24, so not that long ago, and they already only had broken down the specials because of budget cuts to the point where every 8 days they got music, every 8 days they got art, every 8 days they got PE. Like it was a rotation because they could only afford to have so many special teachers because of budget cuts. So I think that children should be having an art every day. Every day. And the fact that they should also be having PE every day, not just recess.
I've always said it's probably the greatest indictment against Trump. The fact that he was so vehemently against the arts, does not seem to care about that at all.
Well, he is a prime example. people like him and somebody like him of someone who is the most, he's not an antichrist. He's the anti-art. Like this is the guy who has, I can't imagine any appreciation for anything creative whatsoever.
No, and Trump is also an example of somebody who has basically spent his entire life only thinking about money. That's it. It's the only thing he thinks about. How do I make more money?
Well, those people in China with those kids, that's not how they think.
No, it's not. But in fact, our culture is one of the only in the world that does think like that. And that's why it's such a detriment. Because arts is important. Now, unfortunately, the arts that we get portrayed or that is shown to us in our culture is the type of arts that people don't want to be a part of. They don't want to be a part of stuffy society and art galleries. We're talking about creativity. There is art in photography. There is art in drawing and painting. These things are rapidly being taken away.
Where do I get that? Do I know him personally? No, Metal, I don't. But I've been watching him since the 80s. And I got to tell you, I haven't seen anything that resembles art appreciation.
How about the fact that Trump is the first president who didn't have a dog?
That is weird.
That is weird.
That's weird. And I question. And had a child in the White House. So it wasn't like he didn't have a kid or something like, where you.
Now, herein lies the problem. And Brian is correct about this. Because as people still think that the problem is Trump and Harris, that is not the problem. The problem is people like the DeVos family. Did Betsy marry into this? I think she did. So the Amway fortune. They are some of the biggest political donors. Now, granted, they are primarily for the GOP. But this is an example. This is one of the things that Trump did in his first term that was terrible. You appoint Betsy DeVos as the head of education? A person who only thinks that it should be a for-profit industry.
Well,
that's the type of shit that when you get down to the brass tacks about policy and issues that matter, that's something that you can't deny. Now, do I think Trump gave a fuck one way or the other? No, probably not. But you know what? Betsy DeVos, she's got a lot of money. She gives a lot of money. Totally got to give her
Well, we don't want to educate people. Because if we really wanted to educate people, people wouldn't be fighting about the idea of extending primary school 4 more years. Because that's what I think. Stop calling. We don't even have to call it tuition-free college.
Jules couldn't have said it better. The whole point of dismantling the education system is to make you a cog in the machine. That's it. That's the whole point. They don't want to teach you anything. They just want to teach you how to drive an Amazon truck. That's the point.
Ironically, my 18-year-old, who's a senior now, has had to be taking art for 3 years every day. Like he has art every day, and he's actually gotten quite good at it. But that's because he goes to a small school, and the way his schedule is, that's like the only elective that's available when he needs his electives. But most people do not get art. And it's very problematic.
We've got one big story left to cover, but this is important because obviously those of you who've been paying attention, we all know that Israel is committing, well, we don't all know. I mean, anybody who is actually paying attention knows that Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank. But
now they're in Lebanon.
Now they're really pushing it. And they have come up with a sophisticated way, which we all know is if they're capable of doing it with pagers, they're capable of doing it with cell phones.
Now, my understanding was that they had actually gotten their hands on this batch of phones and had manipulated them before they were distributed. So I don't think it's the same as where people think you could just be walking along, they can make your phone explode. I don't
You don't know that yet.
I don't. But in this case, my understanding was that a batch of phones had been tampered with prior to being distributed. That's the theory. So that makes obviously more sense to me. But no, I always thought that they could be blowing you up from wherever.
Well,
they send a drone to come and shoot you anyway.
Well, this is what happened the other day in Beirut.
It happened in cars. Israel is the largest state sponsor of terror in the world. And I love how they say it's Iran. This is freaky. Oh my God. It's terrible.
Imagine just walking into a bodega to grab some fruits and vegetables and boom!
Well, this is a 10-year-old child got killed from being collateral damage. These things were going off not just in public places, but in cars. So all that has to do go off in a car, and you could kill the cars all around you because everyone's having an accident. Like this is complete state-sponsored terrorism by the state of Israel. That's exactly what this is. And if this happened in any other country, if this happened in a European country, people would be going absolutely ballistic. This is a point, and I think it says a few things. I think that Israel is desperate. They're so desperate. And, we know they're trying to bait Hezbollah and Iran into a larger conflict. They're trying to drag us into a huge conflict. Like, that is all clear. But there's definitely been some different theories as to this whole pager thing, because my understanding, and this is from listening to the people that I listen to, people like Max Blumenthal and people that really know these things, this is something that has to have been being planned for a year. So this is something that has been being planned before October 7th happened. So I want people to this is something that has been in the works for a long time.
Jen, can you please educate our friend Metalopoly? Because this is just...
I don't understand. No, they're not, though. But they're not. You're very misinformed. Lebanon is still predominantly a Christian.
Turn off Fox News.
An Arabic Christian Arabic nation.
Do not allow yourself.
And quite honestly, if we didn't have the time difference that we had, I'd be a lot more adamant to try to get Rania to come on.
Yeah.
But no, they are not that, and you need to stop watching whatever news you're watching.
I forgive me for assuming it was Fox News, but maybe it's news. Well, not news.
It doesn't even matter what it is, but I'm telling you, Lebanon is not an Islamic a dictatorship. That's just not the way it is there. It's just not. But and here's the thing: even if it were, so that means that Israel just gets to randomly blow up people in their country because we don't like their type of government. So that's the problem with that thinking, is it's irrelevant.
So as the genocide continues, a lot of people in this country are trying to get to these political rallies to make a statement. And there were not a lot of people, but, a decent handful of people that went to a Harris Waltz rally in North Carolina the other day. And this is how the liberals greeted the people saying, stop the genocide. This is, again.
Well, was it better than la, 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 la?
No, this is worse.
One person on the face.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Now, even if nothing happened, now let's just say that this is all that took place and people were shouting and no one was actually paying attention. If you look at the shit-eating grin on this woman right here holding the Harris Waltz sign, just, like this, I'm telling you, it's like right out of 1984. It's like she's been indoctrinated. She looks at these people, like the people who are saying stop the genocide, they're the bad people.
Yeah, well, they have to believe that. I don't know what happens here. I didn't see this clip, so I don't know what happens.
Now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Oh, that'll help.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Those people should walk in front of them.
Ceasefire now!
Look how
Do
stupid.
you see the grin on this guy's face?
These are nothing comes to mind but Ovine. It's all I can think of is Ovine.
Listen, I don't want to. Again, I don't want to talk about a person's physical appearance.
Stop it.
But my God.
Well, but you could say that at anybody's rally, truthfully.
Yeah, they say that Trump has a lot of those at his rallies.
I'm sure he does. There's no.
it is, to be fair, it is North Carolina.
Kids in my high school class.
Imagine being proud of this.
They are. They're so
that they're
pleased.
proud of this.
They're so pleased with themselves. We're helping.
The day that a bunch of pagers detonate and kill dozens of people,
They don't care.
and this is their get me the sign.
No, but you know what? When it starts happening here, when the people in Gaza and the people in the West Bank grow up, those children who are now orphaned and often limbless, grow up, and they start doing things and plotting things and exploding things, and all of these things that are happening right now in places like Lebanon start happening here, then they might care. Then they might care.
No.
These people don't care because they've never seen anything happen here. They can't, like, what does it matter if kids are getting exploded?
Think about how traumatized people still are about 9/11 to this day.
Yeah.
They're still traumatized about it, and they weren't even a part of it. Think about that.
Trump derangement syndrome is very real, though. It's a real problem because it's keeping everybody distracted from everything else. And of course, the Democrats count on it. The Democrats love Trump. Well, they fuel it. I mean, Trump derangement syndrome is like Democrats are to Trump derangement syndrome what like the lab in China is to COVID. That's what they are. They have created Trump. Like there's no better distraction, and it creates a situation where they don't have to have economic policy. They don't have to say anything. They're in their minds, they're totally fine doing a genocide because, well, Trump would do it anyway. So what difference does it make if we're doing it?
Well, Sandra's right. If they do grow up, who's to say that they're not going to create another 9/11?
Well, that's true if they do grow up. And I am going with and even if they don't, if people don't think that, if let's say what I've been fearing all along is that ultimately this ends with 2-point-something million dead people in the desert, okay, then there are people all over the world that have watched that are then going to act because it's an idea. It's not, this has triggered an entire global resistance.
Maddow, let us know when Iran commits a genocide. Because as far as I know, they haven't.
I'm not saying they're good guys. I don't think there are any good guys. It's just Iran is not threatening us.
And
Iran is not threatening anybody right now.
And the idea that Iran is worse than Saudi Arabia, that's when you know it's all bullshit. You want to talk about the subjugation of women? There is no place worse than Saudi Arabia. That is the worst place.
Well, now you've got places like, Afghanistan, and you've got all sorts
of places that we've created. Libya, slave trade, everything.
But that was also courtesy of us.
And we will conclude tonight with the most important.
Can I just say one thing about Iran, though? The people that I have met that have traveled to Iran and have spent time there, people whose opinions that I trust, that I think would make, have said nothing but the best things about the people in Iran, the country of Iran. And quite honestly, and I said it in the chat before, if it weren't for the good grace of Iran and the fact that they actually have honor, they have honor. Because if they didn't, Tel Aviv would be leveled right now.
Do you understand that Saudi Arabia is committing a genocide on the Yemen people as we speak?
Well, have been since 2014, but that was Obama's fund. But and yet the Yemeni, the Houthis, they're not backing down.
Jules, if you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
I don't think I've had Iranian food, but I would have it as long as it's not...
Farbo gave me his mother's cooking.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, that's good stuff. There is nothing I have ever seen in my lifetime that has been proven, that is factual, that is reasonable, that gives me any inkling of the idea that Iran is dangerous to me or my country. I've not seen that. I have not seen that. So, I see us poking and poking and poking. And and by the way, people who I also respect have said, people like John Mearsheimer, like Ray McGovern, Larry Wilkerson, like people that really know what they're talking about, right? Iran has not retaliated yet for the assassination that happened on their property. They haven't yet retaliated for that, and they probably will at some point, which is well within their rights to do so. However, they're standing back and looking at this, and saying, we don't really need to do that. Israel's imploding all on their own, but at the end of the day, they fight, and Hezbollah fights, and Hamas fights with way more honor and respect for international humanitarian law than Israel ever has. So even though Iran could have already retaliated 10 times for things that Israel have been poking and prodding over the past few years, long before October 7th. So, I am not holding Iran accountable for anything other than having restraint at this point. Because if I were there, I don't know. We assassinated somebody in their country at an inauguration event for somebody in their government who was a guest of their... Can you imagine if they did that to somebody who was visiting here? Can you imagine if Iran assassinated the leader of, let's say, India, like Modi or whatever, while he was here, they just assassinated him on our land, that we would just be like,
We're grateful to hear that, Ray Jane. We're always grateful for all of you being here. And as you know, we are a small but mighty channel, but we're picking up the pace a little bit. Got to 50 live viewers tonight. We've been getting around.
But definitely hit the like button.
Make sure you're subscribed. Click the bell. Comment after we are finished with our live. And go to patreon.com/generational
For as little as $5 a month.
to become a supporter.
And by the way, we haven't been promoting, but we still do have t-shirts and jerseys. So for anybody who signs up and does a $25 Patreon membership, you will get a t-shirt, a Generational Change t-shirt or jersey. These are them. They're very cute. They say, "Here comes the sun" on the front. And on the back, they have the Gen Change logo.
Help us out, guys. And you can also go to Cash App, $Gen Change.
And right now we are in the process of upgrading.
Yes.
I am really wanting new microphones. That's part of it.
We
I
will
want
work
new
on those
microphones, and
cameras.
we're also trying to get a second camera. My concern is, and this is the thing, like, and we need to find this out, what that does in terms of slowing us down potentially. I don't know if having a second camera, right?
That one.
But so that is what we're working on, and we're going to be having a little bit of a different setup in here.
So we are going to conclude tonight with what is my story, because we played.
What are we
James.
watching?
When we talk about the issues that actually affect us on a day-to-day basis in this country, Steve made it very clear that we have to look beyond what has been thrown in our face day in and day out, because this is the reality of what we've been talking about. How multinational corporations, corporate special interests have captured our government, and there is no way to fight back until you break the system. And as I have stated, being in commercial real estate as a career, the bane of our existence is private equity. This was the key issue that RFK talked about when he ran for president. It was the one issue that corporate media never wanted to cover.
Still won't.
Because it's the one issue that he actually was right about, and the people who were listening were like, man, RFK is the only one who's talking about this. Jill Stein doesn't even talk about this. But this is the issue of our time economically. You're never going to be able to own a home. And the audacity of Kamala Harris to come out and say, we're going to build 3 million homes. Do you know how far behind we are in home construction? You need 3 million homes a year right now. That's how far behind we are. And we all know that whatever the intentions are.
It's so weird when you say that, because where we live, all I see is building. All I see is constant buildings of places that I don't know who can afford to live in them. So I don't understand why you say we don't have enough housing.
Well,
we have enough housing.
No, it's because the housing ends up getting concentrated in areas that are attracting certain types of people. I'm not talking about parts of the country.
No, I'm just saying the problem isn't a housing problem. The
also
problem is a money problem.
And it's an affordable housing problem.
Yeah,
that's a huge part of it. And so this is a clip from a channel that we like very much, even though they're adjacent to the Democratic Party.
More Perfect Union is valuable.
But they do very good work. John Russell, who's been on our podcast, he's probably the best of the best.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But this is a story that is literally capturing the essence of...
How big is this clip, though? You're not playing the whole
thing.
We
cut it down. I asked Colin cut it down. And if you think it's bad with single-family homes, they're going after mobile home parks.
It's not new. And I want you to know that that's not new, but it is definitely, since COVID has exploded. And basically you've got these huge firms buying the mobile home parks. So even though people that own their mobile home, but they have to pay lease, they have to pay rent for the land, and they're jacking up the prices. And these people literally have nowhere to go.
Yep.
They're in their own home and have nowhere to even go with it.
The greed is real. Here we go.
I worked my whole life, and this is what it comes down to. Some greedy person wanting his big chunk out of what little bit I had.
How much longer can you afford to live in your home?
1 month. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Hope that I don't wake up tomorrow. That's crazy.
Hope I don't wake up tomorrow.
This is a woman who worked her whole life to retirement, owns her mobile home, and should just be able to enjoy her life, pays her rent to live where she's living. And she was able to do that knowing ahead of time, this is what my monthly expenses would be. This is what I get in terms of, my retirement money, and planned her life accordingly. And now these people are just going to all be screwed.
That's one way of looking
And these
at
are
it.
people that own their homes.
Crossed my mind.
One of the most important forms of affordable housing is under threat. They're called manufactured housing communities. You might know them as mobile home parks or trailer parks, and they often get a bad rap. But 22 million Americans call them home for a reason.
We're pretty much the last oasis of affordable housing in this country.
These parks are at the foundation of America's housing market, often the last line of defense against homelessness. But over the last decade, these communities have become the target of a new kind of landlord: private equity.
Private equity firms are increasingly getting involved.
Some of the biggest investors in America have moved into this industry.
People living in a local mobile home park outraged over the sharp increase in lot rent.
Rents were raised by nearly 60%.
I looked it up and I went, oh dear, I think we are in trouble.
Yes, you're in a lot of trouble because there is no, and this goes to all of our conservatives, John Nada, Metalopoly, everyone who watches our channel that gives us the benefit of the doubt that we are the true populist left. I'm telling you right now, there is no regulation. This is Ayn Rand's wet dream of wet dreams. Do whatever the fuck you want, and no matter who you have to crush, you will get what you want. That's why Blackstone, State Street, Vanguard, yes, BlackRock and Blackstone are two different corporations, but it's Blackstone that gets involved in housing. That's what they do. BlackRock does commercial real estate, but the housing is a separate issue here.
It's equally evil.
Equally evil.
This is the problem with this. I don't mind people making a profit. I really don't mind people making a profit, but increasing by 60% at that rate, this woman who is on a fixed income and is retired, there was no universe wherein she should have had to account for that level of price gouging in planning her retirement. And that's the problem. So now we're talking about people who properly planned for retirement, who did work their job for however long they did and played the game how you're supposed to play it. And they could not have possibly accounted for this level of greed. And that's the problem. There is no reason why this woman at her age should not be able to live the rest of her life in her home affordably, other than greed.
Correct.
It's disgusting.
3 years ago, a private equity firm bought Madeline's community and later sold to another firm. Since then, her monthly rent plus fees have jumped 50%.
Instead of what I thought the rent was going to be, it's $200 more. I have nowhere to go. Just the other day, my daughter went with me to the food bank, and I hadn't done that before. I haven't been poor. I worked for 45 years. There is no American dream anymore.
You're goddamn right there isn't.
This is a normal person's house. Like, this is not. Well, the problem with a lot of the people, like, especially when we talk about libertarians, they have this, like, she should have thought of that. Well, she did. This is somebody who handled themselves completely responsibly. She worked for 45 years, probably saved up, bought her mobile home, calculated out how much money she'd need to be able to live there. Like, this is case in point where it's not her fault that this is happening to her. Not even a little. Like, this is brutal.
And this is the one thing that I think people really miss when it comes to the Trump for America First movement, is that there are a significant amount of working class people who are looking at this like, well, what the hell else am I supposed to do? The Democratic Party is a corporate neoliberal, now neocon party. They are both major political parties are in bed with private equity. Yeah.
She needs to pick herself up with her bootstraps, even though she's about not to have her boots. But, like, yeah, that's the point. Like, this is not okay.
I would say this to Brian. I would say this to anybody who's planning to vote for Kamala Harris. She is out there literally touting Goldman Sachs.
That's who is happy with her.
That's who's happy with her economic plan. And all I could think to myself is...
She called it the opportunity economy.
Your
opportunity to be homeless.
This story right here is at the heart of what people like Goldman Sachs do. This is what it is.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is huge. And I knew that mobile homes were an issue because when I was doing HOA and condo stuff, when I was working at Becker, a lot of our clients, we represented the mobile home communities. So I know how this is and I've always sort of thought it for me, and again, I don't know where this woman is, but the idea that we have so many mobile home communities in Florida, that's always been an issue to me because it's very unsafe here. Especially in certain evacuation zones to have mobile homes. But this is where people, yes, me too, Linda. I am too. Cornel West is on the ballot in Florida. He is under the Natural Law Party, whatever that is. I don't particularly care.
What also ends up happening, John, is that they pick up these properties and they don't let them go. They turn these into monopolistic firms.
Let this finish because it's just sad. Like this whole thing is just so pathetic.
Yeah.
And you guys, if you want to, you should definitely go watch the whole thing on More Perfect Union because it's really good work that these guys do.
All it is survival.
During the pandemic, institutional investors started to buy more manufactured housing than ever before. Between 2020 and 2021, they made nearly a quarter of all manufactured home purchases in the U.S. Today, 12 private equity firms own at least 1,200 parks nationwide.
This is a financial play to them. They don't care about us. They'd just as soon evict us, take our homes, and then rent them out to somebody else for $200 more.
Theo Gantos lives in a park near Flint, Michigan. 3 years ago, it was taken over by Homes of America, an affiliate of the hedge fund Alden Global Capital.
I just have to say, and this is important, and this relates to Jordan's book, We the Poisoned. This is all connected. You want to talk about contaminated water supply? How do you think the people in the mobile home parks, what they had to deal with their water supply? They were all poisoned. And then, which was always the play, is to basically ruin their lives and let private equity come in and snatch this up. What do you think is going to happen the next time there's a downfall in the economy? The same thing's going to repeat itself all over again.
Because these people love to kick you when you're down. Like that's how they operate. That they just seriously. This was like, and I just saw Sarah Blakely on with someone else the other day. The vulture capitalism. It's the same. It's just they cannot. Again, I'm not against people making a profit. You can make a profit. You don't. There's a difference between profit and price gouging. There really is. There's a difference. That's why one is okay and one is not. It's nuance matters.
Metalopoly is right about this. The WEF has specifically said you'll own nothing and be happy. I've always said if you want to know who the real Emperor Palpatine is in the grand scheme of our economic and political arena, it is Klaus Schwab. He is that guy. He is Emperor Palpatine. You will own nothing and you will be happy. And as Jules says, this is beyond let them eat cake shit.
It's just beyond predatory. And the fact is, again, I'm not against people having profits. I'm not against people having real estate investments.
There is no regulation.
That's
zero. Nothing.
There's no protection for people. So there has to be protections for people like this woman.
Yeah.
Period. This is not okay.
And this is what the Democratic Party holds over your neck, because when you have some sliver of hope in the NLRB, but everything else goes to hell, they are behind this shit. It's like, why do we care that you protected the Teamsters pension in a must-pass American Rescue Plan bill, and then you break the railroad strike, proving once and for all that when it comes right down to it, you will stand on the side of shareholders before workers every fucking time. You will throw a little crumb every once in a while.
But what good is an NLRB? Helping the NLRB would be so much more important if we were a very unionized country, but we're not. So that doesn't
10%.
help. Right. So throwing scraps at things that only help very few people, or even Kamala's, I love when she's asked about what are you doing for Black men? This is one of her biggest answers is, well, we're going to be doing these small business loans for entrepreneurs. Guess what? Most people don't want to own their own business. Most people don't want to be entrepreneurs.
I own my own business for a decade. Let me tell you, it ain't peaches and cream, baby.
And for people who want to, that's great, but that's a small amount of people. There is nothing wrong. And it's so elitist of them, because the whole premise is there's something wrong with people that just want to work for a living. Like that, there's something wrong with that. We don't need to help those people. But if you want to be a business owner, we'll help you. So how many Black men are really helped by that kind of policy? How many? I don't think a lot. Now, I am not a spokesperson for Black men, clearly. But to me, that's just one of those little crumbs that you throw to a very small demographic of people that it does benefit. And somehow that's supposed to make you look like you're helping people financially.
I just think that we have reached the point of no return. We have. And that people are checking out, but they're also looking at Trump as like, you know what? At least he will facilitate the revolution.
That's my line. All right, finish this because this is brutal. I remember I watched this and it was devastating.
Alden Global is best known for buying newspapers across the country and stripping their assets.
Yeah, we had a pool, you know, before the...
Just the fact that we have, I mean, if you really want to see just how far private equity has taken things, think about what has happened to real journalism and newspapers.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Because they've all been bought out by the same people that basically are doing this.
And who in the fuck do you think owns the New York Times and the Washington Post? Oligarchs.
Well, they own all, and they now all own smaller papers. And the truth is, local papers, a lot of them have gone out of business just because of things that have nothing to do with being,
there is no such thing as altruism in the system anymore. It's dead.
Look at this.
It's dead.
So this is, okay.
The Homes of America. We still pay the same amount as though we had a pool. And
a great point about what he just said. What this gentleman just said is exactly what has happened in Flint, because this is Flint. And this is the exact same thing that happened with the water supply. Even
is
though
this in Flint?
This is Flint.
Oh.
Even though the water is poisoned, they're still, not only are you not getting a reduction or not even having to pay for the water, you are getting an increase. You have to pay more money for poisoned water.
See, I don't even know, and let's say that these corporations came in and bought this park and upgraded everything and improved everything and did all of these things, and they charged more money. I'd still have a problem with it if it wasn't democratic because they might not have been able to afford those improvements.
Right.
But at least you would be able to say they're getting something for their money. So, yeah.
as though we had a community center, but we have no community center either.
Since 2021, Homes of America has gone on a buying spree, spending nearly $300 million to acquire 138 parks across 17 states. They've raised rents and aggressively evicted residents. After years of neglect, only about 15% of the lots in Theo's Park are still occupied.
So he
And
has.
who is Homes of America? Homes of America is just a shell within a shell within a shell. Homes of America is Randy Smith.
Randall Smith is the founder and chief investment officer of Alden Global.
Nice.
He lives in Palm Beach, Florida. As of 2017, he owns 17 mansions.
This is why capitalism will fail.
But see, here's the thing. And I don't want people to ever think that I begrudge wealthy people owning homes and living a life of luxury. I don't. All the power to you, man. I have no problem with people living that way if you're treating other people okay on your way to get there. That's the thing. I don't care if he has 17 mansions. I don't care if he has 17 yachts. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have a problem with that. I don't begrudge him that.
How did he get that money?
That's the problem. See, therein is the problem.
He made people suffer. He drove people to suicide or death. That's blood money.
Like, I don't mind him having 17 mansions so long as that woman can live at peace in her mobile home. She's not asking for much. See, that's the thing. I love how people like the conservatives and people that are anti any sort of government support or help or social safety net have a problem with that. But this is okay. I don't have a problem with this man being wealthy. I really don't. I mean, all the power to you, man. All that woman wants is her little mobile home. She's not asking for more. People on the right seem to think that everybody wants something for nothing. She worked for 45 years, saved her money, bought her home, and just figured she'd be able to live based on her fixed income. See, those are the people that need to be protected.
And the important thing, and we'll conclude on this note on this video, because I'm going to pull it back for a second.
What I'm saying about capitalism, and I am not a capitalist. I don't think it's a workable program. I just don't. To me, I don't think it works in conjunction with human nature. To me, I don't think it works.
I want you to look at this man's face. And yes, of course, he is the stereotypical billionaire.
Kind of looks like Rick Scott to me.
Well, he probably donates a lot of money to Rick Scott.
I'm sure they're
Wouldn't
buddies.
surprise me at all.
Oh, no, they must be.
Randall Smith. Did you know who he was before this video? Of course not. But he's a very rich man. Very rich man.
Right.
And
These
you know
are the people that we need to be punching.
Here's what I will tell you about Randall Smith. This is a man who has profited from people being poisoned in Flint, Michigan. This is a fact. This is one of the faces of the enemy. This is who they are.
See, I want these people. See, I am also one of those people that, as I've said many times, I don't think that people like this and people that we elect to represent us should have a moment of peace when they're in public. People like this need to be called out, tarred and feathered.
Yeah. He's got and he's probably got every single negative stereotype like every other completely sociopathic, wealth-driven individual. Didn't get the girls. Probably has one of these.
Doesn't even matter.
But they have this desire to want to inflict their pain through wealth.
He's no different than like Gates or Bezos or Musk or any of those douches. They're all the same. This guy right here, I just want people to see him, know who he is, because this person should, not that he's ever probably in a public place, but this is disgusting.
17 mansions.
These are people that need to be tarred and feathered. It's just enough of this shit.
I mean, you want to talk about a carbon footprint. When people complain about all these things, and again, a lot of people, including people like Metalopoli on the right, will always say, you got people like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, who's, I mean, again, Randall Smith, you could clearly tell he's probably in his 70s, completely different than somebody like Zuckerberg, who's, I believe, around 40. And so you're talking about generational difference here. Now you've got, no pun intended, but then of course you've got somebody like Zuckerberg who was out there saying that, oh, we have to protect the environment. Have you seen the fucking mega yacht that he just bought?
Yeah.
It's like, you will never understand the level of carbon footprint that people like Randall Smith and Mark Zuckerberg inflict on this planet.
Right. Don't worry about Taylor Swift or even Taylor Swift. Don't worry about Taylor Swift. These are the people that are the problem. Seriously. Why people want to poke at people like her, whatever. She's not out there intentionally doing stuff. Did you finish that video?
That was it.
I am so disgusted by that whole thing. And I am concerned that my older is involved in that somehow. And that's something that there's nothing I can do about it. And it bothers me. But
that's the beautiful thing about what I do, because I make the choice. I have two rules in commercial real estate, and I state them very proudly. I will not work with private equity, and I will not work with Israelis. And that's the end of it. Those are my two rules.
It's funny. Jason used to always say that he would do everything except for play poker with Norwegians, and I don't know why that. He had a bad Norwegian. It's a joke.
Well, the thing about Scandinavians when it comes to poker is that the thing about Scandinavians when it comes to poker is that they're crazy. Like they'll play like.
Is that what it is? Because I thought he just had an experience, and he always said that as a joke. Everything's fine, except I'm not playing poker with a Norwegian. I don't know what that meant. If anybody has ever played with Northern Europeans in poker, you know that there are a lot of crazies that will play 9-5 offsuit like it's aces. Like that. That's what
real.
Is that? Is it? Well, you know what? Good for them. You know why? They have a social safety net.
Maybe.
They're not worried about being.
They're not just thinking about the money every time they make
they have a social safety net. They're thinking of it as like, let's just go for it. It's fun. Because they know that at the end of the day, when their baby is born, they're going to get the baby box. They're not going to have to worry about how they're going to feed their kid.
You see, the difference, Brian, and this is always the difference between Trump and Bernie. And it's pretty simple. Pretty simple. Trump was willing to go all the way. And Bernie wasn't. But
here's the thing. Bernie comes from within the system, regardless of what he says. He's part of the system. He's in it. He's been in it since forever. Trump really isn't in the system, not in the electoral system. And Bernie is. And those are his colleagues. And he thinks of Joe as a friend. See, Trump doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. So Bernie is an insider, and he's never been a revolutionary. He's a reformer, and he is in his lane. He did, but he was never, I don't think he ever thought, I think he was kind of like the dog that caught the car.
Yeah, he didn't think it was going to go.
I don't think he thought it would go as far as it did, and he never really contemplated what he would do if he got to that point. And he just didn't have it in him to truly stand up and tell the system.
Which is why, when you think about it, even if Trump is just making shit up on the fly that they're cheating him, this or that, although I will say they really are moving heaven and earth to make sure he doesn't win again. But Trump would never tolerate being fucked with. Bernie knew that they rigged the primary in Iowa. They flipped coins. They basically
and then got in line.
Bernie had every opportunity. He had the wind at his back.
You're talking about 20. Forget that.
No, I'm talking about 2016.
Oh, there's that too.
I'm saying that he had the wind at his back. Bernie in 2016 was a revolutionary, and he had an opportunity, but he decided that
that by definition means he's not. He was not. He was not a revolutionary.
And this is
if
why
that had happened to Dr. West, it would have gone differently.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he's a revolutionary.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. He's not scared of angering people. Bernie is. Bernie is.
Well, I don't want to end up like Ralph Nader, and that's more important.
He's concerned with angering people. And when you're concerned with angering people, you cannot be considered a revolutionary because by definition, if you're a revolutionary, you're pissing people off.
That's a great point, Phil. We all wish that Bernie was that guy.
Please, I wish that Kamala Harris loved Hamas. They keep saying that too. I don't understand where they're getting that from.
You know, when everyone talks about the debate, and I look back at the debate and I think to myself, Trump got up there and said, "You totally don't like Israel. You're not an," and then Kamala turns around and says, "I'm the biggest pro-Israel person we've got." And then I'm thinking, he got you.
Yeah,
he got you.
That's how it goes.
And so that's why we've fallen as far as we have. But this was inevitable that we were going to have to find the movement through labor, which was what Bernie's 2016 movement was all about. And then it got splintered into this idea that, oh, we're going to reform the Democratic Party. The party does not want to be reformed. They're willing to lose. They're willing to sink themselves into oblivion. Because once you're corporate captured, there is no going back. They will not let it go.
No, they just keep doubling down. Like being the genocidal lunatics that you are isn't sufficient. You then have to tout an endorsement by Dick Cheney, as if you weren't already getting the endorsement from the Grim Reaper.
This is also the same problem, ridiculous. And this is the same problem that exists within the private equity industry, that a lot of people still are not registering. They don't sell. They just acquire. It's like a blog. Keep going. Suck it all up. All of it. That's what it's about. When I say they're going to own 60% of single-family homes by the end of this decade, probably might happen even sooner.
But it's not to keep everybody housed.
No. They are completely content with keeping those properties empty because they want them at the rates that they can sell them at. You know why? And yes, I agree. You got to end the Fed. Woodrow Wilson is, for all intents and purposes, the worst president we ever had. And as I keep pointing out, everyone wants to point the finger at Teddy Roosevelt and the fact that he ran as an independent in the Bull Moose Party. Keep in mind that he finished second in votes and electoral votes in 1912. The GOP finished at the bottom. It was Taft that should have stepped away, but he wouldn't do that.
You're right, Jules. They're trying to get it. We're going back to feudalism. We're regressing back to a feudal serf state.
What no one talks about from 1912 is the fact that it was Teddy Roosevelt who ran in the GOP primary. He primaried Taft, and he got more votes in more states, and the delegates still gave it to Taft. They've been doing this shit forever.
Right. This isn't new.
Like, don't think for a second that we at one time had an honest electoral system. Now, maybe for a sliver of a moment we had it, and that's how FDR got in, because the country was literally in shambles.
No, it isn't that too. He's also part of the aristocracy. Make no mistake.
Sure.
FDR was a capitalist insider, and the only reason he did what he did is because he knew he had to. And he knew it was the only way to save capitalism. Yeah. So, no, we've never really had that. And the only reason we even have term limits is because that seemed a little too democratic. So we do not have that here. We do not have that.
No. Which is why, as horrific and terrible and one of the absolute worst in the nation Debbie Wasserman Schultz is, she's one of many. And there's a lot of representatives at the federal level out there on both sides of the aisle that you don't even know about. You don't know that they exist. And they really suck. And they suck a hell of a lot more than Trump does.
Metal, it won't matter about Jill Stein. But yeah, she's going to potentially really do damage to them in swing states. But I just think those people wouldn't have voted because they're more, if you notice, the campaign was abandon Biden and it's abandon Harris. So even though those people are aligning with Jill Stein, it's not like they were going to vote for Kamala anyway. So that's the thing. They still can't blame Jill Stein. But even if they could, even if she was the reason, then she just deserves those votes because she earned them and your candidate sucks ass.
Thank you very much, Linda. And of course, that's the point. They don't care if they win.
No.
They just want to maintain the status quo. They don't want to give anyone the idea that there is another path outside of the two-party system. That's why they come at Jill Stein with daggers. The only problem is that a lot of people are actually starting to take notice of Jill Stein because of the fact that the Democrats are coming at her as hard as they can.
No, it's true because they're giving her all this publicity. It's great.
Fly, Icarus, fly. Barbara Streisand effect. Barbara Streisand sucks, by the way. Total psychopathic Zionist.
I don't care. I never said I liked her as a person. I don't care.
Hack.
Okay, now you're being ridiculous. I'm not. You can't deny that.
No, she's
like that's ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. I don't. It doesn't matter.
I don't like mean people, particularly people.
If we stop listening to like musicians and artists and watching movies because people we thought they were assholes or mean, we'd have a very small little menu of things to be looking at. I can't not like people because there might be an asshole. And at this point, unless they're a pedophile or a genocidal maniac, everything is fair game. We have a very low bar.
Yeah,
all I'm saying is that like all this stuff that like comes out about people and who they're affiliating with, at this point, seriously, unless you are a pedophile, you really, we have a very low bar. I don't expect much from people.
Well, on Monday, we are going to get the inside scoop from two very important voices, two voices that I'd like to think were actually helpful to Jen behind the scenes as best they could have been during the campaign. One person is going to speak on the Teamsters not endorsing Kamala, which in some ways people look at as endorsing Trump. And then we're also going to speak with a gentleman who knows a thing or two about the Haitian community and what they're going through.
Who's coming on?
We'll have Alexandra and Andy.
Okay.
So make sure you tune in next Monday. We're going to have a couple of locals coming on the podcast. And it will be at our regular time at 9 p.m.
Our local Teamster friend and our local leader, Haitian community.
Jordan.
I definitely want to talk to him. And there's no way we're not going to talk about the Trump comment about the cats.
100%. And Jordan and Steve are examples of our VIP guests so that if they decide they have to come on a little earlier, make an exception.
I don't like to do it. I mean, look, there's other people that I would.
If you could thank Hillary Clinton for anything this evening, she got Steve to come out of his shell at the last minute.
Anyone can do it.
He really.
Anyone can get somebody really agitated. It's Clinton.
Really good.
God, she's such a piece of shit.
Jules, Brian St. Pierre, David Watson from Edinburgh. What if they're eating the dog? Well, listen.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
The song.
Here, and again, and I say this again in all seriousness, even if that were true, there's cultures that eat horse. There's cultures that eat, in India, they think we're horrible because we eat cow. Like, I don't know they think we're horrible, but like, I'm just saying, like, even if they did eat cats, and they don't as far as I know, but even if they did, first of all, I do know that they eat dog in places. I do know that. They do eat dog in places. What are you saying? No?
No, I'm saying it's disgusting.
Well, yes, but to them, but there's places, but really in reality, there's pigs are smarter than dogs. If you want to really go down a thing as to why it's okay to kill one critter and not another, I just think that's ridiculous. I really do. And that's a cultural thing. We are taught that cats and dogs are pets, and so they're really cute. Exactly. And again, I'm not saying that's something I would be into doing, but I'm not going to if we're eating other animals, I just think it's like, where do we get off? But again, the thing about what he's saying about Haitians and immigrants is completely just to be hateful and incendiary.
No, they're really terrible people.
And bigoted and racist, and all of that is true. I just would like to point out that even if they did those things, our culture, our way is not the only culture, is not the only way.
Correct. And I will say this, you will never, you can't see Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom and not think of monkey brains. That's all I can say.
Monkey brains.
Choose a monkey brain.
I'm just,
and our resident Canadian, I can afford to super chat because of the Teamsters.
Yes, Teamsters.
So, Metal, Donald James, John Nada, Canadian Socialist, Philip Blair, Sable Miner, Brian St. Pierre, Schultze, Jules.
I feel like Canadian Socialist
Chip,
is sort of like a double negative, or like a not a double negative. It's like
Kat Negrita, Andy Martin, Holly Horn, David Watson, Jimmy Zimzam.
And yes, solidarity with the Haitians.
Linda Fontes.
Haiti.
Talk about a lively chat this evening. Well, we always seem to have that. Sable Miner. Good to see you. Who else? Got a lot. Mark J.
I meant to put in a potato and I forgot.
Sandra Looney.
Now there's no potato.
Yeah, that's too bad. Donald James. I think I may have said you. Crossing into a lot of names the same. Chris Garrett.
No. I saw Holly here. I saw Holly Horn. I saw Chip.
Chipping in. And of course, got one more shout out to Carla Harrington. Thank you so much. Just sending love. Thank you for the highlighting the issue. Yes, it is. It is a real issue that really matters.
Yeah.
I believe I may have said John Nada, but I'll say it again. For those of you who have not seen They Live, I cannot emphasize enough what a great film that is and how relevant it is. In fact, you only need to see a scene in the first 20 minutes of the movie that's about 5 minutes long that'll really explain exactly the world we're living in today. John Carpenter has always been kind of ahead of the game.
I want to see something. I want to see that. Hold on. Oh, that's cool.
This?
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. That's cool. I was just watching a movie about Zion.
Tony D, Ray J.
I've been there, but I haven't spent time there. I've only been through there. I wish I'd spent time there. It's really unbelievable.
Guys, I want to have a real problem on the show. I want us to have 100 live viewers and me not.
We've had viewers that people and you can't. We've had it a couple of times, depending on guests.
Have to be able to scroll through the comments.
But you have to wrap it up because I need to go eat.
Melanie Dennis. I am wrapping it up. This is what we do at the end. We acknowledge our wonderful people that show up because our show depends on them. Nashoba, Shamak Shuti.
Nashoba.
That is interesting. How many people really know that? Bardina Wilcuts.
Article 1, Section 8. I'll show you.
Verified. Dahlia Tapia.
Yeah. Okay. To regulate commerce. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, to promote progress. Here, look about
so
that.
Now why do we have the Fed? Distractions as AA. Michael Brown.
Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton showed up for a hot minute.
That's always my favorite one to see, though.
Mark Fabian. Appreciate you being here, Mark. One of our resident MMT guys. PC 3244. No argument. And yes, I agree, Jules.
Yes, MBS does qualify. He's just not currently committing a genocide.
Angie Womack, Bashar al-Assad is still president. Hillary never will be.
Exactly.
I tell you, she wakes up in cold sweats all the time thinking she is.
Oh, God, she's so grotesque.
86, Blackberry White. No question. C-Dub. Who else?
It makes sense that our people would find her to be one of the most despicable people on planet Earth. Because to me, she really is. She is disgusting to me. I cannot, every time she comes out in public, I keep wanting to see, my mom used to always say, this vaudeville phrase, give them the hook. And I always keep wanting to see, a big hook come out and, pull her off the screen.
Jonathan Cadman, thanks for checking in. You guys are all great.
Yeah.
And I will
thank you all so much.
If you really want to see what a bloodbath in the midterms looks like Kamala Harris win the presidency, then you'll really see a map flip like nobody.
You'll see the end of the Democratic Party.
In a big way.
Which that to me would be the benefit of that happening. Because I am now on this thought,
and of course, Henry Kajala.
I want to see the implosion of the Democrat Party and the Zionist state. And I think that we could get rid of them together. That's my plan.
Could be a good plan.
Oh my God, Hillary 20.
Keep believing.
She'll be in Death Becomes Her, where they have to keep pasting her back together.
Yeah, she is turning into Goldie Hawn from
she's so gross. She's just so gross.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, they really are.
We will see you on Monday, regular time.
Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. We appreciate you all. Remember, as soon as this live stream is over, make sure you go to the live stream comment section and leave a comment, leave a like, share, do all those things we ask you to do. We'll see you Monday.
Bye, all.